So I'm honoured. I come from an Autodesk background. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say Autodesk at an Esri conference. Is that okay? But yeah, so it's a great venue, so thank you for having us. So just for today, we'll have to do, I think we've had a quick intro, so when we skip that, so we'll have a quick understanding of the project scope of what CWA is. We'll have a look at some of the previous workflows before we've kind of move on to the digital transformation. I've always think that's quite important to understand where we started from, sort of trying to bridge the gap. Hand over to Maisie to look at some of the digital transformation. We'll look at some stats, which we all have a bit of stats. And then just a quick summary at the end. So we'll get going. So CWA stands for Caledonia Water Alliance, Caledonia Water Alliance, sorry. It's a 6-year framework. We've just finished SR15 and now we're on called SR21. So it's a 6-year framework working with Scottish Water, looking at clean and waste water projects. So lots of pipes, pumping stations, and the CWA, it's a joint venture, so it's between AECOM, which is going to run out from the Glasgow office, and Morrison's Water Services. So the AECOM are doing the design work, and MWS, they're really focusing on the construction. So it's a really good JV, it's a really good project for us to sort of be involved in. Lots of exposure from the design and the construction point, all the different sort of other disciplines which we'll look at later. So really good opportunities. This framework, we have to be, the contractor has to be sort of BIM compliant. So that's great for me because we can start looking at how we can deliver projects more efficient. That's coming from a demand from the client as well. So obviously myself and Maisie, we're sort of looking at this opportunity and we can really kind of utilise some of the GIS tools and applications to support that project. So, like I said, previous workflows, I think it is important to understand, where we are now, but how we got there, why we wanted to get sort of transform into that and using GIS. So, one area we sort of looked at is the asset information, how we're receiving that asset information into our design team. A lot of that was exported data and then loses all that metadata, that really important metadata. On a page, it might just look like a line on a page of a pipeline, but where's all that, the important metadata and attributes associated to it? Traditionally, right or wrong, we kind of removed that because of the way we were delivering, and that's using some of the Autodesk AutoCAD tools. And for me, there's a bit of a risk there as well. Are we losing really valuable information? Today's session already, we talk about lots of data. Obviously, I don't think there's always too much data, but we've got to make sure we're using that data correctly. So that's one area we looked at for sure, is how we're receiving the asset information in the framework, and actually should we be improving on that. Data collection, again, lots of talks today has been about data collection. I think it's been great. We noticed that people were doing the traditional methods, pen and paper, old school kind of approach. For sure, we know there's easy solutions for that. So that's one thing we've really targeted over the last couple of years, since the framework began. Project content, again, looking at our traditional deliverables, is there a better way of delivering that? Our client is asking us to be a bit more efficient and being that BIM aligned to some of the BIM standards. So is there a better way of handing over that content digitally, removing traditional ways of delivering of PDFs? So that's something we kind of saw again. We're trying to bridge the gap there and find solutions out there that we can achieve. And the client delivery, and that is touching on that project content, how we're handing over, can we bring them into a certain environment to consume that data, which we'll touch on shortly. So that's where we are from previous workflows. I'm going to hand over to Maisie now to start our conversation about digital transformation.
Yeah, so the first step we really took on this path to digital transformation was looking at that asset data and looking at a way we could provide that to everybody so they had one place to go for it. So we created a web map that contained all of the Scottish Water asset information provided by Scottish Water to us, and we then gave that to the team and let the team access that. So they had one source of truth. Once they were happy with that, we also started including other utilities information, such as power and gas in there. And that was a really important step to kind of show that we have the single source of truth and reduce that risk, so everybody's working from the same data. Once people started getting a bit more comfortable with the AGOL environment, we then started to develop some web design tools for the design teams. So this is an experience builder site that we set up for each individual project, and this contains all of the Scottish Water asset information and other asset information. We also include any CAD project information. And then also what's really important to add context to this as well is that we're able to, via Web Map Services links, link into other organisations' data that's really important for the design team to know. So while they would have always looked at Scottish heritage and other open source data, having it all in one place and in one design tool, it really helped make that first stage of design much more efficient. And then we moved on to developing a set of digital surveys. As Dave said, there were very much large numbers of people going out and collecting data on site with pen and paper. And it was quite a long development process to turn some of these paper surveys into digital ones. A lot of what we did there was looking at how we can pre-populate data and make things a lot more easy for the people out on site. They don't want to have to fill out 20 questions every time they look at something new, whereas we've managed to set up things so that they can click the correct project and the correct date, and then certain data will pre-populate for them. And this has been really successful and has been taken up by a lot of different groups within CWA. We started with a very specific survey for the flushing team who go out and make sure that the waterways are clear, but we've now extended that to lots of different site works, reinstatement teams, and even to health and safety teams as well. As Dave's mentioned, one of the parts of the framework is BIM compliance, and we've been looking at BIM integration a lot in the past few months. The design and engineering teams do produce models in Revit and Civil 3D, and we've now used the BIM Cloud Connector in ArcGIS Pro to pull that data into ArcGIS and then publish that to our web environment so that everybody has access to these 3D models. And also in reverse, we can use ArcGIS for Autodesk to do that in reverse and pull that GIS contextual information directly into Civil 3D. This really helps develop data-rich models for the designers and engineering teams to use, and when we can put it up on the web GIS as well, this allows all other users to access it rather than it being a 3D model stuck somewhere where only a few engineers can access it. They also implemented a lot of dashboarding. This really gives insights into the data collected via Survey123 and field maps. And the project management team have really taken to these and really like how you can display key metrics and also using the different filters so they can look at what is actually relevant to them rather than having to scroll through a spreadsheet to find the project they're looking for. And then finally, we've also been working on integration with Power BI, as this is used within the business to look at some key KPIs. So here, this example, for instance, shows the data collected by flushing surveys, and it shows the predicted data, which is what was already in Power BI, and it shows what was actually recorded. And those actually recorded figures come straight from the ArcGIS online data and is integrated straight into Power BI.
So I think, as Maisie said, we've kind of those elements that we've really focused on, and I think that's part of the digital transformation. This CWA Hub, which there's a slide in a second of where that data is all stored. I mean, I think this slide just sort of shows some of the disciplines that are sort of integrating with us, who are using these tools, and starting to see some rewards out of it. We've got site photos. Some of these were quick wins, if I'm honest, but the way we traditionally were collecting data from just photos, we know that that's an easy one to resolve, but there's a massive uptake now on that. The health and safety team that Maisie mentioned, the surveys. I mean, there's just endless surveys that we're going to have to be completing. That's not a bad thing at all. It's great, but it just shows you, I guess, when we've had a bit of a success story within the framework, how that just kind of opens the eyes to other disciplines. And it states some of the surveys we're capturing there. The land liaison team, now they're out on site, who are speaking with some of the landowners, collecting data, even things we built into the survey. If there's asset information they can see which is not quite correct on our map, they can feed that back into the design team. The digital content, again, publishing all this great sort of Revit and Civil 3D content into your AGOL sites. Like Maisie was saying, we don't want to be working in silos. It's that collaborative approach. That is probably our main message is that all these different disciplines that you can see on the slide here that are using it in different ways. We still don't want those in pockets of different information, all that data in different positions. We need it consumed in one location. And that's sort of our hub page, which we'll show shortly in a minute. The customer and community, again, they're using it, going out, speaking to other people within across the community, showing them design data, if it's using the tablets, with field maps, the flushing survey that we developed, which was a massive piece. Again, and the commercial and obviously really the construction teams, again, they are, I would say out of all of them, like the health and safety, the surveys and the construction team are really pushing hard and pushing us hard, if anything, of trying to, what else can we do if it's as-built capturing data online. This is what we want to hear from them. I think that's why it's been so good with this sort of joint venture, not traditionally working in a design space, but we're getting the opportunity within the construction space, and actually working now closely with the client as well. And I think that's really, really good to help us, maximise the data that we're collecting. And then it's not just for us, but then, at the end it's been, handed over to the client. How are we handing it over that? How can we work with them to support? Can they support us with how we, consume that data? And the flushing survey information we have the client now brought in and removed a number of different steps in the past. So they are now pulling that data automatically into their environment, which is saving lots of time, which is good news for especially for the client. This is just a quick snapshot of what we would say the CWA Hub. Again, it's all this data collection. It's really important to understand, where is it being located. So you can see here we have our landing page, the first one, and then we have different tabs here from the project sites, what we're calling the AGOL sites. So that's across the wastewater, clean water projects. The flushing area, that's a whole scope of works like we've mentioned. They've got their own, they're lucky, they've got their own sort of own area. All the surveys, the dashboarding, all the workflows. So if we have new users who come in, there's workflows to understand how to request information, how to use the editor tools, and then obviously all the existing utilities. So it's trying to bring everyone to this focal point. It's an easy way to manage. If any updates, you just still come to here. So it's just a really nice way to kind of share information, but keeping it all in one place. Over to you, Maisie.
Now the fun part. So we can see, most of these activities kind of kicked off in August last year, and we only had 20 user licenses then. There wasn't a need for any more than that. But now we've got 106, and we've got more on order as well, I think. So this is constantly growing. It's a constant request we're getting is for more users, especially for field workers. And the next bit in the middle is showing kind of the split. The majority of our users are viewers, and these will be people viewing the existing utilities map and using that. Mainly, we had over 1,500 hits on that map so far this month. Then we have quite a large group of field workers who go out and use Survey123 and field maps on the ground. And then we've also got our editor team who are more designers, who are more desk-based. We've also, as well as the people within CWA using it, we've got a user group with Scottish Water so that they can access data directly and having to remove some of those deliverables as Dave was talking about. And then the most fun one, I think, is the number of surveys completed since August last year. And at the time of making this slide deck, it was just under 25,000. I checked this morning and we're at 25,500 surveys submitted since we started back in August 2021. So it really shows we're not only creating these things. I think sometimes, especially in the online space, it can be quite easy to create a nice app or a nice survey, but actually showing that people are using these, we're getting survey results back, and that data is then being automatically consumed by the client. It reduces so many steps, and it means so much more data can be collected so much more effectively.
Just to summarise, just these three sort of subjects of digital transformation, I think, like you've seen, it's where we started from. There's lots of, like I said, we've got lots of people knocking on our door asking, can we do this, can we do that? So I think, we're expecting, the licenses to go up, which, I'm sure Esri UK will happy to hear that. The standardisation of surveys, I think that's really important because we do have multiple types of survey, the same questions, but people have their different versions. So all of this transformation is really trying to sort of standardise processes as well, which I think is pretty important. Some of the savings over the last sort of couple of years, it's been quite incredible. We find, which is obviously pleasing to the ear for our management team and our client as well. And it's some of the processes that we've got is actually reducing the client side, which is always beneficial. And lastly, I think of all of this, from a client perspective and within CWA, it's the collaboration, and I think that's the key bit. And the more we're all working together and trying to really utilise this data and using it as it should and where it should go, I think the more efficient of our projects are going to be delivered across the next 4.5 years, I think it is. So, but that's us for today. I hope that was a bit of insight of where we are. Thank you, Roddy.